lovely people, Mina here. So this week I figured I would go through and talk about all the books that I've read so far, in the books I read in February because I haven't really talked about those yet, and then the books that I'm reading in March that I finished. There's still like ones that I'm almost through but I haven't quite finished, so I figure by the end of March I'll have all of those done. But these are the ones that I have completed reading. I didn't really film much in February, and so I forgot to kind of review them and talk about them, so I'll talk about them now in March, and then talk about a few others that I have read in March. Also, if you're new, hello, hi, and if you are not new, I did change my channel name, and the reason for that, it used to just be my name, which is Nina, but I changed it as to read or not to read and TWO because my younger sister has said at some point she wants to also make content with me. I talk about her a lot on this channel because she gives me a lot of book recommendations and I borrow a lot of books from her. And so I figured she could just join in on my channel at some point if she wanted to. She has yet to join in, but eventually, if there's another face that appears on this channel, it'll be her. And so, yeah. For now, it was supposed to be both of us, so that's the name of the channel, and that's the reasoning behind the change. Anyways, what I have been reading. I'm gonna start with Martha Wells' The Exit Strategy, because this is the first one that I finished in February, I believe. This is the fourth installment in the Murderbot series. I talked about this a little bit on a different video. I think it's a writing video. But this was really good. 5-star read. I love this series. There's 4 short, like, little books. They're like full books, but they're just short. And then I think there's 2 more after that that are like normal full-length novels. But this is the 4th and final in the shorter series, and it follows a rogue sec unit who reprograms themselves to basically not have to follow orders, and they work with a group of scientists, and things kind of go chaotic because the sec unit wants to fit in and be more human-like, without spoiling too much because this is the very last one in the series. Things kind of delve into chaos for the sec unit, and the sec unit discovers things about the people that programmed them and such. That's kind of vague, but I don't want to give too much away. It's really funny. The sec unit is obsessed with serials, which are like soap operas for them, and they talk about like Sanctuary Moon is their favorite serial to watch, and it's just so funny. I absolutely loved this series. I would read it again at some point because it's just a lighthearted, funny, good read, well written. So that's that one. The next one that I read, I'm trying to think of like what order. I might be out of order here. But I read The Will to Change Men, Masculinity, and Love, which is by Bell Hooks. And she talks about how essentially like toxic masculinity, and she talks about kind of men's role in society, and essentially like if we don't dismantle the patriarchy and break that up, then like nothing's gonna change. And there's also a whole thing with like media and how media is involved and like influences men and basically reaffirms their like gender roles in a way of being like head of the household type, very stereotypical like masculine way of thinking, and very societal like standards. And this is just an amazing read, and it just made me kind of sad, and I was like, yeah, it basically describes all the people in power right now and why it's so bad and why they are so weak but thick-minded. Yeah. this is an amazing read, especially for the times that we are in right now. I love Bell Hooks and everything that she writes. I also read her All About Love book. I think I read something else by her too. I don't remember. But this is just amazing. I have a full review of this on my channel, so I will link that below if you want to check that out. 10 out of 10. Because February is Black History Month, I tried to focus my reading on primarily Black authors and Black history, and I feel like education and constantly informing yourself is really important. So for that, I read a book called Resist by Rita Omaka. I feel like I hope I pronounced that right. And she wrote a whole bunch of like, I want to say like short stories. She did interviews, and she went around and learned about different Black like cultural like historic events, and learned from people who were living during that time or like had family living during that time. And it kind of gives you, the book gives you kind of like a very basic, a very beginner, I guess, level to Black history and important things that everyone should know. And I feel like this is a really amazing book if you like want to learn or you just like don't know anything. It's some of the information is kind of like, I don't want to say basic, but like I like maybe you would probably already know it. However, I feel like it's still extremely important to constantly be learning and reading and educating, and I feel like even if you know some of the information before, it's always good to like refresh and constantly have that learning. Yeah, I just feel like it's super important to always be learning and to always be educating, because that's how change happens. And so this book follows, it starts, I think she starts at like with like slavery days, and then goes all the way up to Black Lives Matter, because this book was published in like 2024, I believe. 2020, I think it was 2024 or 2023. I don't remember off the top of my head. But it goes all the way up to the Black Lives Matter movement, and then she talks about how there's still so much change that needs to happen. I think it was a really great read for Black History Month. I think it's a great read in general, and if you have the time and you're looking to read something that's a little more informative, I would check that out. One of the next books that I read for February, and I think I ended up finishing it in March, so it went February to March, that I had not planned on reading this. However, my loan came up at the library and it was going to expire, so that is why I started this. And it's Frederick Bachman's Beartown, and I had planned on reading this in like, well, I originally wanted to read it in January, and then I was waiting for my loan and waiting, and it never came. And then eventually it came, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this before my loan expires. And I didn't love this. I'm so disappointed and so sad that I didn't like it. I went in with high expectations. I hadn't seen anyone's reviews about it, but I've read other Frederick Bachman books. I've read quite a few of his short stories. I read My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry, which is horribly sad. And then I was like, Beartown, I think, is one of his earlier ones that was published in the US. And it follows a hockey team in Beartown, and Beartown is a tiny town that's kind of falling apart, and they essentially need this hockey team, they're like senior hockey team, whatever, junior hockey team, to win the championship so that they can have a massive hockey school built in the town to bring in people, to bring in money, because the town is crumbling and there are no jobs being made. And so that's like the premise of this, and I was excited because I love hockey. I love just like the small town like cultural feel. I don't know, and everything about this I was so excited to read. And when I started it, I was like, maybe like 10 chapters in. I was texting my sister and I was like, this is such an amazing book, you should read this. I got a little over halfway and I was like, I don't like this book. It took a turn that was kind of predictable when I didn't want it to be. It was following this town and the hockey story and all of these families' individual, like, issues and drama that was happening. And then he kind of falls into very much stereotype and cliche, and that's how it ends up, and that's how it wraps up. And you're, like, reading this going, oh, this has so much potential, and then it was, like, all these cliche tropes that you would find with hockey, and sometimes, I don't know, I just didn't love it. To not spoil it, something happens to a person in this town, and the whole town basically erupts because of it, and it all unravels. Yeah. And at the beginning of the book too, it just kind of fell, I feel like, on stereotypes and different tropes, and cliches, and honestly the first few chapters I was like, great, this is interesting, it's pulling me in, and then after that I was like, no. But then I felt committed because I was already so far into it. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't love it. And honestly, if I hadn't been waiting for the audiobook for so long, and if I wasn't already into it, like, quite a ways, I wouldn't have finished it, which is a bummer. Because I wanted to like it, and I just did not. Yeah. But a lot of people do like it, so if you like it, amazing, I love that for you. Just wasn't for me. Yeah. There's other ones in this series, and I won't be reading. The first one wasn't for me, and I don't want to read the others. The next one that I read, I also don't have a physical copy of it because I checked it out from the library, so I'll put it up next to me somewhere. And I read the Heartstopper yearbook. I'm gonna be honest, I only really read this because I needed to catch up on my reading goal, because at one point I was like 9 books behind, and I was like, I'm never gonna catch up. And so I read the Heartstopper yearbook, and it was really cute. Again, I think it was a good book just because I got it from the library. I don't know if I would necessarily buy it, but it was cute to check out from the library. The Heartstopper yearbook follows Alice Oseman, who is the writer and illustrator of the graphic novel series, and she talks about how she came up with the series and how she came up with different characters, and it's just like background information about her writing style and the stories that she wrote. And then she also has little bits in there on like how she drew the characters and how to draw the characters. It's cute. Yeah, I thought it was a good, cute library read. I love my local library for having that, and always good to support them. So there was that one. I'm currently reading the Heartstopper series and finishing up, and it's the last book, and the series is so cute, and so I'm going to be so sad when it ends. But I'm on the last book right now. So that was a good, like, in-between buffer book while I waited for the next, like, segment. My camera battery died. But one of the next books that I have been reading is the Lore of Olympus series, which is a graphic novel series. And this follows Hades and Persephone and the kind of journey to the underworld. And it's so good. If you haven't read this series, you should read it. It's all out on Webtoon. Otherwise, you can buy, like, physical books of it. I know my library has it in, like, to check out. It's really good, and I just read the 9th book, I think, is where I'm at. I'm reading it on Webtoon, so I think it's, like, the 9th physical, like, book. It's really good. It's one of my favorite, like, graphic novels. Yeah, I really love it. So that is the next one I finished. I'm now working through like the 10th, 11th. I don't know how many. It's being split into books, but I don't know how many. I want to say maybe 10, 11. That's my guess. Again, I'm reading it on Webtoon, so I'm reading it in like comic strip style. But I finished that and I really loved it. Easy 5 stars. One of the next ones I read, and one of the final 2 that I read, is Train Dreams, and this follows a man named Robert Grainer in like the 1920s. I think it takes... Okay, well, it starts in 1917, and it follows Robert Grainer, and he is, he works on the railroads and works in logging, and it follows essentially his life story and different people he runs into and different, like, characters. It's really amazingly written. 5 stars. Not a long read, but it also made me cry, and it's very beautiful. I have yet to watch the Oscar-nominated movie. I started this because I had wanted to see the movie, and I was like, I'll read this and then I'll watch the movie. I have yet to watch the movie. I loved this, so watching the movie makes me nervous because it'll either make it better or ruin it. But everyone said the movie is really beautiful and really well done, so hopefully I like it. But yeah, this made me cry. And it's just like a beautiful depiction of his life. So yeah, that's Train Dreams. And the very last book I've read so far is Ali Hazelwood's Two Can Play. And this is an audiobook and it's like 4 hours long only. It's very short. It's just like a cute little rom-com book, and it follows 2 like rival gaming groups, and they have to collaborate together to work on building one game. Programmers, maybe. 2 rival programmer groups. I don't know how to describe it. And they have to work together to complete one game. And it's kind of like an enemies to lovers situation. Wasn't my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. No. I did like Checkmate a lot better. It was a fine, like, fluffy, cute read, I guess. Yeah, it was okay. Like, probably 3 stars. Yeah. That was the last one I read, and so that is all of the books I have read so far for February and March. I didn't read as many in February as I would have liked, but this is my little stack, plus the other ones that I got from like the library and such. So yeah, that is all for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down below what you've been reading. And as always, I help people live free from oppression. I have information down below about everything that's been happening in Minnesota with ICE and everything that's been happening in Palestine and Sudan and Congo and Cuba, and just resources where you can help, because it's so important to be talking about this more than ever and to be helping where we can. Again, it's very important that our voices are heard and that we're speaking out more than ever and speaking out for those who can't. Yeah, so that is all for this week's video. I love you all, and I'll see you next week with a brand new video. Bye!